Okay, thank you for waiting. Patience is an important part of our practice, and even though we're 8 minutes late, you'll soon find in the sutta we're given today the vast expanses of time in the Aggañña Sutta. So, first of all, pay respects. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So in today's sutta class, this is the first sutta class I'm doing of the season after the rains retreat, and as it was the first, I thought I would talk today about the beginnings of the universe, according to Buddhism. One of the reasons I'm doing this is that many of the other suttas which we've been through, that they're online, they're all recorded so people can listen to them. And when I give a Dhamma talk, or the sutta class, we've done that already. So it's very hard to get a new sutta. And usually the new suttas, are the ones we haven't done before because some of them are a little bit out of left field, as they say. And this is one of them. But nevertheless, there's enough of interest here for people actually, hopefully, to find it useful. This is a bigger picture of human beings and also the life force, whatever you call it, and also the different castes and classes and even genders and why there is so much discrimination. So anyway, this is Sutta 27 on the knowledge of beginnings. Thus I have heard. You got it on there? It's okay? Okay, good. When the Buddha was staying at Savatthi, at the mansion of Migara's mother in the East Park, Vastheta and Bharadwaja were living among the monks, hoping to become monks themselves. Then in the evening, the Buddha rose from his meditation, came out of the mansion, and started walking up and down on its shade. Now, what was a Buddha doing living in a mansion? And the story behind Migaramata mansion, Migaramata was the Buddha's name for no one else but Visakha. Visakha was one of the chief female supporters of the Buddha and the monks and the nuns. And it was in the Vinaya, sometimes people look only in the suttas to find some of the teachings of the Buddha, but also in the Vinaya, which is the monks' rules, the nuns' rules. There's lots of extra information. And on this occasion, that Visakha, first of all, to say how she was called Migaramata, was that when she got married to a gentleman called Migara. Basically means like deer, or D-E-E-R. So when she said, "How are you doing, dear?" it made actually D-E-E-R, because that was his name, Migara, means a deer. That was supposed to be a funny anecdote, but it didn't go down very well. That was his name, Migara, meant deer. And if any of you see, in Ajahn Chah's book, there was a deer who was over in Awapapong. I remember seeing it my first year then, but then I think it died. And he called it Mick. And Mick was actually the shortened form of Migara, means a deer. But anyway, Visakha got married to Migara, and because of the situation in those days, Migara was a very devout Buddhist, and he wouldn't allow her to offer alms food to the monks, not even to the Buddha. So, what happened was that she went around telling people, oh, in our house we only eat old food, leftovers. And Migara said, what are you talking about? You know, we're wealthy, we get fresh food every day. We don't eat leftovers. And that gave her the opportunity. It was a skillful means. Saying, I don't mean the consumable food. I mean we're only eating old karma, old merits. That's why we are healthy, we're wealthy, we have plenty of food and comforts. But that was because of the karma we did in our past life. Now, we are not making any new karma. So we're just using up the old stuff. That's what I'm saying. We're just eating old food, old karma, and one day we'll soon run out. And it was a skillful means, and Migara, the husband, really opened his eyes to how wise she was. And so he said, please, offer alms food every day. And Migara became a Buddhist. And so because the wife was the mother of her husband in the Dhamma, gave birth to the Dhamma in her husband, she had the nickname that Migara's mother, even though it was really her husband. So when you hear Migaramata, it meant Visakha, the one who really, for example, you've got Ainsley and Barbara in the back. If Barbara was the one who, I don't think it was the case, but anyway, it could have been anyway, just for an example, if Barbara was the one who inspired Ainsley to come to the Buddhist temple, then you would have the nickname Barbara, Ainsley's mum. I think he's making some signs there. But you get the point, Ainsley's mum. So this was Migara's mum, and that became her name. But anyway, what happened was that one day she was going off to some function, some ceremony, some party basically, and she was walking past the Jeta Grove, the Jetavana monastery. And then she had the thought, hang on, the Buddha's here. Why do I want to go to a party, a big celebration, when I can go and just listen to the Buddha, give a teaching or something? So she much preferred to go and pay respects to the Buddha than go to the party. But then she thought, I'm wearing all this expensive jewelry. It's not appropriate for me to go all dressed up in front of the Buddha. So she took all the ornaments, expensive ornaments off. She wrapped them in a cloth and put them under the bushes somewhere. And then she went to see the Buddha. And she was so inspired by the Buddha's teachings, so just joyful, that she went home afterwards, forgetting all of this expensive jewelry. And then came along Ananda, the Buddha's attendant, and he saw, hey, there's a lot of expensive jewelry here, but monks aren't supposed to have any money. We can't even touch any valuable things. What should we do? And so the Ananda went to see the Buddha first of all, and the Buddha sort of said that one of the rules for monks, and also for nuns, if you drop or leave your jewelry in a monastery, or if you drop sort of your wallets or your bags with thousands of dollars in there, the monks can pick it up, the nuns can pick it up to put it away until such times as the owner can collect it. Because it's dropped in the monastery, it's our responsibility to actually pick it up, hide it, and find out who the owner is. That was one of the times when a monk or nun can pick up even money. Not to use it for themselves, obviously, not to claim 10% reward, but to put it aside for its rightful owner. And it's the same if we come to your house. Sometimes we go to people's houses and they offer food. Or we say we go and visit Hugh, and that he drops all his worldly possessions, thousands of dollars, and when we visit there, then we can actually pick it up and give it back to you. Not you got thousands and thousands of dollars, but that's our duty, to make sure that we can put it aside for its rightful owner. So that's what Buddha said. So he said, well, you better go and get that. So the Ananda picked it up and put it aside. Soon they found out who it belonged to. It was Visakha. And so Visakha came and sort of said, oh, you left it in the forest. You're inspired by the Buddha teaching. So we put it aside for you. So here it is. And then Visakha took it and said, this is wrong. That it's been touched by a holy monk. I can't put it on again. I can't use it. What should I do? She said, what I will do is I will sell it. I will sell it to the monastery. By which he says, I know roughly how much it is, so in return I will build a lodging for the Buddha. And a big one, because it's worth a lot of money. And so she said, that's my promise. I will build a monastery for you for that amount of money, and now I can actually have my jewelry back. So that was a purchase. And so the Buddha accepted that, so she had her jewelry back, but she wanted to build a monastery for that. So that became the Migaramata, Migara's mother, 7-storied dwelling for the monks. Now, I often mention that to our monks to say, well, even the Buddha stayed in a high-rise. So, unfortunately, Hayahasapanya is gone, but please let her know. Oh, her driver's still out there. Please let her know if they don't get Dennis, if they don't get planning permission for their 4 huts, why not just go for broke and just get a high-rise, a 7-story high-rise, and then you do it once and it's all done. I suggested that to the monks also, that if that was the case, then I could have my penthouse. So Ayahasapanya could have a penthouse. That's only joking, okay, so don't take that seriously. But so that was simple when they had sort of multiple dwellings. So anyway, that became Migara's mother's building in the spot. And the other interesting story there, which comes from the Vinaya, that Visakha said, but can I ask that the person in charge of all that building is the monk Mahamoggallana. Now Mahamoggallana, if you ever know, he was one of the chief with psychic powers. He had lots of psychic powers. And so they said in the Vinaya, that building was constructed incredibly fast. Didn't need to hold up the wood over there while someone put... In other words, it's pretty obvious he was using his psychic powers to build the buildings. So, Dennis, if you want to tell the nuns how to build their huts, get Ayahasapanya and others to just do it quickly. Boop, 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 boop. But anyway, Moggallana did that. But this also shows that in even those days, the monks did building work. But sometimes people say, oh, monks, they shouldn't do any building work at all. You should just be meditating and eating and getting fat. But no, even in those days, the monks did building. So anyway, that was Migara's mother's 7-storied mansion. Unfortunately, people have searched for that. They've got the Jeta Grove Monastery. They know where that is. They've never been able to find any archaeological trace of Migaramata's mansion. Anyway, so that Buddha was staying there, and so was these 2 Brahmins, Waseta and Bharadwaja, hoping to become monks. So it's just like any one of you wants to become a monk or a nun one day. You just live with the monks and nuns for a while, just to see how you go with them, They get to know you, see if it's the lifestyle you like, and then sometimes you can get the ordination. But just recently, we had Adam. He's our senior Anagarika. He came up to ask me. He's been about 11 months at Bodhinyana Monastery. He said, "Can I please take Samanera ordination?" I said, "No." I said, "Why not?" I said, "You're too good a cook. You're too useful." So if you want to be a monk or a nun, make sure you're not a good cook. And there is, what's the point of keeping this guy? That's only joking, okay. They're all good cooks. But of course, he's going to be ordaining in, when is it? In January sometime, yeah. Anyway, as long as he doesn't cook too much delicious food. So anyway, they were hanging around with the other monks, hoping to become monks themselves. In the evening, the Buddha rose from his meditation, out of the mansion, did some walking meditation in the shade of the mansion, because it's very hot. They didn't have air conditioners then. So even here, when we were talking about, trying to people get too hot in some of the side halls, you can go and do some walking meditation. Sit outside to do the meditation, just like in the time of the Buddha. Anyway, so Waseta notices this, said to Bhardwaja, "Friend Bhardwaja, the Buddha has come out and is walking up and down. Let us approach him. We might be fortunate enough to hear a talk on Dhamma from the Buddha himself." "Yes, indeed," said Bhardwaja. So they went up to the Lord. He was by himself, saluted him, and walked in step with him. Then the Lord, I'm supposed to have changed that to the Buddha. Anyway, then the Buddha said to Waseta, "Waseta, you two are Brahmins, born and bred, and you have gone forth from the household life into homelessness from Brahmin families. Do the Brahmins revile and abuse you?" "Indeed, Lord Buddha, the Brahmins do revile and abuse us. They don't hold back with their usual flood of reproaches." "Well, Waseta, what kind of reproaches do they fling at you?" "Lord, what the Brahmins say is this: the Brahmin caste is the highest caste. Other castes are low. The Brahmin caste is fair. Other castes are dark. Brahmins are purified. Non-Brahmins are not. The Brahmins are the true children of Brahma, born from his mouth, born of Brahma, created by Brahma, heirs of Brahma, and you have deserted the highest class and gone over to the low class of bald-headed, petty ascetics, servants, dark fellows born of Brahma's foot. It is not right, it is not proper for you to mix with such people. That is the way the Brahmins abuse us, Lord." Now, if any of you had a child who wants to become a monk or a nun, sometimes some monks, some nuns have got that abuse. What are you just embarrassing us for? There was Venerable Siripanyo. He was, many years ago now, he spent, I think, a wasa, a range retreat with us. His father is Anand Krishna, who's the second richest billionaire in Malaysia. And I think he was Maxi Telecom or something. That was his main business. And so when he came to visit. I think I was on retreat or somewhere when his father came. He just came in his private jet, just parked in Perth airport and just took a limo to see his son. And he stayed a few days. And of course, every day parking at Perth airport, a private jet, it's taking cost about $25,000 a day or something, some ridiculous amount of money. But anyway, that's what he did. And so he was very upset. He said, "You are begging for food when I'm a billionaire? What food can you want? I will send it to you. I've got heaps of money. What are you doing this for?" And that's great. That monk is still a monk. It's wonderful to see that even though his father was a billionaire, he could be a playboy if he wanted. He didn't need to work for his whole life. But no, he wants to be a monk. Still is. But he was, first of all, he was ashamed that his monk, his son, was a monk. Just like some people that think, you've deserted the highest class and gone over to the low caste of bald-headed petty ascetics, servants, dark fellows born of Brahma's foot. It is not right, it's not proper for you to mix with such people. That is the way the Brahmins abuse us. Then was said the Brahmins have forgotten their ancient tradition. When they say that, because we can see Brahmin women, the wives of Brahmin, who menstruate and become pregnant, have babies and breastfeed them. And yet these womb-born Brahmins talk about being born from Brahma's mouth. They're born from their mums. Sometimes that's when Ajahn Chah, they'd asked him, where do you come from? He said, my mother's belly. It's a great answer. So people ask me, Ajahn Brahm, where do you come from? And I say, my mum. Sometimes I stretch it a bit and said I was born in the bush, grew up in the bush, shepherd's bush. There's no bushes or trees in shepherd's bush. Maybe years ago, centuries ago. Anyway, so, and these womb-born Brahmins talk about being born from Brahma's mouth. These Brahmins misrepresent Brahma, tell lies and earn much bad karma. Brahma is the word, it has many meanings, but the meaning here is just like a god. There are, was said, to these 4 castes. This is going to the caste system. This is what the Buddha thought about the caste system. The Kshatriyas, the Brahmins, the merchants, and the artisans. Sometimes a Kshatriya, that's called the warrior class, takes life, takes what is not given, commits sexual misconduct, tells lies, indulges in slander, harsh speech, or useless chatter, is grasping, malicious, of wrong views. Thus such things as are immoral and considered so, blameworthy and considered so, to be avoided and considered so, ways unbefitting a respectable person and considered so vile with disastrous results and blamed by the wise are sometimes to be found among the Kshatriyas, and the same applies to the Brahmins, merchants and artisans. They all do wrong things from time to time. Sometimes too a Kshatriya refrains from taking life. He keeps all those precepts. It's not grasping, malicious, or wrong views. Thus such things as are moral and considered so, blameless and considered so, to be followed and considered so, ways befitting a respectful person, and considered so inspiring with fortunate results and praised by the wise, are sometimes to be found among the Kshatriyas, and likewise amongst the Brahmins, merchants and artisans. Now, since both vile qualities that are blamed by the wise and inspiring qualities that are praised by the wise are scattered indiscriminately among the 4 castes, rational people do not recognize the claim about the Brahmin caste being the highest. In other words, just because of your birth, your family, your nation, your gender, your whatever it is, your caste, your university. I used to say that Cambridge is much better than Oxford. The reason why, you can actually see that in Cambridge University, they're called the light blues. And in Oxford University, they're the dark blues. So one is on the dark side, the other ones are on the light side. So of course you know where I went to. I went to the light side, not to the dark side. Dark side, who's on the light side? Great people like Newton and Stephen Hawking. Who went to the dark side? Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher. Oops. I shouldn't go there any further. Anyway, so it doesn't really matter sort of where you're from, it's how you behave. So it's wrong to say that some people are superior, recognized by the Brahmin caste being the highest. Furthermore, if I said to anyone from the 4 castes who renounced as a monk or a nun, who was ending the outflowings, this is the word for asavas, where the mind goes out, attached to the things of the world, who has completed the holy life, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, reached the highest goal, extinguished the attachment to being, and is enlightened by virtue of the Dhamma, who is an arahat. They are proclaimed supreme by virtue of Dhamma, not on account of what is not Dhamma. So in other words, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter sort of what your gender is, what your upbringing is, that if you become an arahat, fully enlightened, then they're proclaimed supreme by virtue of that Dhamma, that truth. So Dhamma is the best guide for people in this life as well as the next. Any questions about that or comments? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah, go on. I know, first of all, John. Okay, idle chatter, it's sometimes that I, on these machines here, I do the editing, but then it goes back to the old ones. So it's not idle. I usually call it useless chatter. Chatter without a purpose. In other words, sometimes I remember with Ajahn Chah, sometimes he'd just be a good friend and just connect without sort of being a teacher, without being a master, without sort of teaching any Dhamma, just being friendly. And the same I saw with one of the fiercest monks in Thailand, which was Ajahn Mahabua. And sometimes he would just be kind, just to, when it came to their tea time, he would, he's a big monk, but he'd sometimes take the lower seat. So how are you going today? What's been going on? And he would just talk ordinary things, because people called it idle, but it wasn't idle, there was a purpose behind that. To make the monks feel at ease, to make them feel unafraid. Sometimes even here, you see little kids coming up, you tell them jokes, even big kids. You do that to make them feel comfortable and welcome, to make them feel happy. And sometimes that's not useless chatter, it's the purpose behind it. So sometimes what people say idle chatter because it's not mentioned the Four Noble Truths or dependent origination, that's not the meaning here. It's a word for a purpose. I also, another example of that to make it clear, when I first started as a monk, I wrote all my letters to my mother, maybe once a month or 6 weeks, whenever I could get an aerogram. And I wrote all these teachings of Buddhism and how great they were. And then, after about 3 or 4 letters, I could sense, my mother wasn't sort of saying this explicitly, I sensed something was wrong. And then I wrote to her and said, how much of what I'm telling you about Buddhism makes any sense to you? And she wrote back, none of it. So then I just wrote letters about life in Thailand, things which you could relate to. The snakes and centipedes and the forests and the arms round in the morning and the quirks of the village life, in northeast Thailand. So that she enjoyed. It wasn't idle chatter. People say it's nothing to do with the Dhamma, but it was still important, to keep that connection with your mother. And little by little, give her some idea of what Buddhism was. So idle chatter is not just, if it's not for a purpose, then of course it is idle. Oh, you had a question, Peter?
You mentioned Caste, where were you going with that? If you find something at
house, yeah, they can pick it up.
Yeah.
And they can actually, but then they find out who the owner is. Because sometimes it may be a ring which somebody loses. And that's happened, it's happened in monasteries. Somebody loses a little ring. It could be an important, very valuable item. But then you just put it aside, keep it safe somewhere until the owner sort of asks for it. So it's an exception where a monk not only can pick up money, is obliged to, must do that. It's your duty to keep it safe for the owner. And it's not just money, but it's other valuables as well. So it was saying you're not high because you're a Brahmin, it's because you know how you behave. And especially to notice that everyone can actually, from whatever caste, every level of society, can become monk or nun, and then is called supreme because Arahat. Another one. This example will also make it clear to you how Dhamma is the best in the world and in the next. King Pasenadi of Kosala knows the ascetic Gautama has gone forth from the neighbouring clan of Sakyans. Now the Sakyans are vassals of the king of Kosala. In other words, the king of Kosala sort of is more powerful for them, more powerful, and actually just almost has supremacy over the Sakyan clan. So the Sakyans aren't independent. They have to pay tribute to the king of Kosala. They offer him humble service and salute him, rise and do homage and pay him fitting service. And just as the Sakyans offer the king of Kosala humble service, so likewise does the king offer humble service to the Buddha, who's a Sakyan, thinking if the ascetic Gautama is well born, I am ill born. If the ascetic Gautama is strong, I am weak. If the ascetic Gautama is pleasant to look at, I am ill-favoured. If the ascetic Gautama is influential, I am of little influence. This is the king speaking. Now it is because of honouring the Dhamma, making much of the Dhamma, esteeming the Dhamma, doing reverent homage to the Dhamma, that King Pasenadi does humble service to the Buddha and pays him fitting service. So it doesn't even relate to your station in life or your wealth. It is because of your renunciation. Dhamma is the best guide for people in this life as well as the next. So Waseta, all of you, though of different birth, name, clan and family, who have gone forth from the household life into the homelessness, if you ask who you are, you know, what caste are you? Where do you fit into, in this case, Indian society? You should reply, we are renunciants, followers of the Buddha. One whose faith in the Buddha is settled, rooted, established, solid, unshakable by anyone in this world can truly say, I am a true son or daughter of the Buddha, born of his mouth, born of the Dhamma, created by the Dhamma and heir to the Dhamma. Why is that? Because, Waseta, the Dhamma represents the body of the Buddha. So he's playing on the idea in those days that a Brahmin was born from the mouth of Brahma. We are born from the mouth of the Buddha because his teachings. That's why we become Buddhist, because of the Dhamma. We are born of Dhamma, created by Dhamma, and heir to the Dhamma. Not born of a person, but born of the Buddha and heir to the Dhamma, because the Dhamma represents the body of the Buddha. And you may know another great saying. There was a monk called Wakali, and he was so enamored of the Buddha that he followed the Buddha around everywhere, and like stalker. And they asked, the Buddha said to him, so why are you doing this? I just love seeing the Buddha. And the Buddha said, the one who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. The one who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. The one who sees the Buddha sees the Dhamma. So he's saying it's not the person, it's just what they represent, the Dhamma inside of them. So even the body of the Buddha is not the body. This is one of the reasons why I often argue, the Buddha is not Indian. The Buddha is not a man. That's just the physical body. The real Buddha is the Dhamma. And so sometimes when people say, and sometimes they try and wind you up as a Buddhist monk, say, oh, your teacher, your Buddha is dead. Our Jesus is alive. That's sometimes what they say. I say, no. Our Buddha is alive and visible today. Are you talking about the statue behind you? I said, no. The Dhamma is alive, growing, powerful, visible here and now. If the Dhamma is visible here and now, the one who sees the Dhamma sees the Buddha. So if the Dhamma is alive, then the Buddha must be alive. the other meaning for a Buddha. Not a person, not a being, but what makes you a Buddha, the Dhamma. Do you get that? Okay, anyway. There comes a time, this is born of Brahma, there comes a time, Waseta, this is the beginning of things, the name of the sutta. This is just, the Buddha tried really hard to not have anything to do with caste system. Not anything to do with people high-born, low-born, anywhere born. Just they were judged, if they were judged at all, by their conduct, not from their past. There comes a time, Waseta, when sooner or later, after a long period, this universe decays. At the time of devolution, beings mostly arise in the fine material plane of the Abhasara Brahmas, based on the second jhana. There they dwell, mind-made, feeding on delight, self-luminous, moving through their own space, glorious. And they stay like that for a long time. So first of all, when people say, well, if people say reincarnation, rebirth, what happens when there's no place to be reborn into? When the universe does end? And any sort of scientist or anyone who watches some ABC science program or something, they all know that this universe will end. That even this planet Earth it's a particular star which will one day become I think it's a red giant. It's going to expand. It's just part of the absolute certain future of our sun. It's going to expand so much. It's going to become bigger. It will eat up the orbit of Mars. And I think even Venus as well. Mercury and Mars. And Earth will be vaporized. We will all melt and be smoke and dust in this vast universe. Even Dhammaloka Buddhist Center and Dhammasara, and they talk about the Department of Fire and Emergency Services and bushfires. Please tell them you ain't seen anything yet, mates. But fortunately, this is going to happen over a long period of time. So, it's going to be a while before, so you don't have to worry about that and lose sleep over it. But this is going to happen after a long period of time. But actually, I quite like that idea. Nothing is permanent. And all the monuments, all of the statues, all of the graves and crypts, everything which marked human beings' existence on this planet will be gone. The only thing left will be Elon Musk's Tesla car flowing somewhere in the universe somewhere. That doesn't run out of gas or be hit by an atom or something. Anyway, so and I just wait to the questions. I'll ask the questions in a moment. So when a person, that's the state of the universe, they call it, when the universe sort of devolves, they call it sangwata. Wata is actually revolving. It's like a wheel. It's a cycle. And this is where things actually just, sangwatata, it means it just basically comes together, stops. It's just like the universe decaying. When I was still a physicist, or was still up to date with physics, it was always either the big crunch where the universe expanding just comes together again. Just what goes up comes down, everything gets expanded and just goes into a big black hole. It comes together. Otherwise, if it's got enough momentum, it just goes out and just dies in a whimper. The stars run out of energy, and things go so far apart that everything just gets dull, dies, and no life is left. Or the other one is where it just goes just the right amount of energy to go, but it just stops, still like a whimpering end of the universe in time. The big crunch, the big bang, the big crunch, the big whimper, I forget what the other one was called. But anyway, the universe has a use-by date. It's going to end. So, the Buddha was saying this, there comes a time when this universe ends. So where do beings get reborn? Do they all get destroyed with this universe? And of course, this is it's really sometimes frustrates me as a scientist and as a Buddhist. The body is not everything. Stuff is not the world. There's more to it than that. In fact, there's the evolution of the body, as we evolve to adjust to the different climatic changes and whatever happens, but there's also the evolution of this thing we call the stream of consciousness. And so things go up, things go down, and so beings, they've got no choice. There's no other womb to get reborn into, not in this physical world. So they get reborn. Actually, they don't get reborn, they re-arise in the jhana realms, especially in the second jhana realm. And many of you, I've mentioned, if you look at some of the talks on meditation or the retreats, in those jhana realms, just mind, you can't feel the body. Any bodily feeling is gone. This is a world separate from this world. A different plane of existence, not in another universe, which is one of the reasons why. So in Buddhism, they always talk about the three worlds. The three worlds. The first world is they call Karmaloka, the world of the body and its senses. And that's stuff. The universe as we know it. But beyond that, independent of that, is the realm of the mind. Two big realms. First they call Rupaloka, fine material realm, and the other one is Arupa Loka, the immaterial jhana realms. Same experience you have in those deep meditations, but they remain for eons, sometimes. Stable because they are not at the mercy of the body and its impermanent processes. It's more stable, less prone to decay. So that is one of the reasons why it's obvious this is the only place where beings can go to, the default state. So all of you, if you don't get enlightened beforehand, will actually get to know the second jhana. When this universe stops, is unlivable, unviable for life, any type of life, then you'll be in the second jhana realms, or third or fourth. They call them Brahma realms because in Buddhism, I'm going beyond the sutras here, but this is why the sutra itself is a bit sort of, boring. But nevertheless, what you can drag out of it is really interesting stuff. The idea of these jhanas being separate from the physical realm. So it's also why you get these stories of people who, in the jhanas, become invulnerable. Fire doesn't burn them, or underwater for days, and they're alive afterwards. I know these cases. So it's not myth, this is, especially underwater, you've seen that happen. Well, actually not seen it, but just heard it from the monks' mouth. So anyway, this is where they go. And why the Abhasa, the second jhana realm? Why not the first jhana realm? Because that first jhana realm is a little unstable. And in the story, I think what Brahma didn't know is called, there was the first, one of my favourite little anecdotes, the first astronaut, first man in space, or rather the first monk in space, Rohitassa. Because he was this monk, and he managed to learn how to fly through the air. And he may not sort of, okay, Ajahn Brahm goes again, but the details of the story, not most important, is actually what he experienced next. And this wonderful final comment, which happened at the end. And he decided, he was really good at levitation, he decided to find out the end of the universe, where this universe ends. So he just went off into space, to where the moon and the sun shine not. So it's basically far enough away that out of the solar system, at least a long way away from the solar system. And surprisingly, he died on the way. And when he got reborn, he went up to see, the gods, and said, look, this is what happened to me, that I tried to find the end of the universe, never could. And this was the first level of gods. They called it the Chaturmaharajika Devas. And they said, where does the universe end without remainder? And the gods said, we don't know. There's another level of gods above us. Those are the Tawatingsa gods. This is Sakka's realm. You will know. And so they went up there and said, we don't know, but there's another level above us, the Tusita realm, the content devas. So they went up to the Tusita realm. Where does the universe end without remainder? We don't know, but there's another level above us. If you've ever been through government and been shuffled from one office to another, it was like that. So they went really up, and went up right up to the Brahma gods. And first they were in the retinue of Brahma, first of all. And they said, we don't know, but Brahma, the great god, he will surely know. But I said, okay, where is he? He said, actually, we don't know. But every so often, a great light appears in our realm, and out from that light comes Brahma. Sound familiar to you? Nimittas? Going into a jhana, through a nimitta, coming out through the nimitta. Because this is what Brahma is supposed to be able to do, is actually get into the jhana realms, and then come out again afterwards. So again, Wasetta, then this Rohitassa asked Brahma, where does this universe end without remainder? And then Brahma said, I am the great Brahma, the firstborn, knower of everything, omniscient, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, that's not what I asked. I asked, where does the universe end without remainder? And you all know that things are done 3 times in Buddhism. So he asked this question 3 times, and the third time he said, I am the great Buddha, the great God, originator, creator, master, whatever. And then he said, look, that's not what I asked. Where does this universe end without remainder? And then Brahma took this monk by the side. And when no one could hear him, he said, listen, I don't know. And other people think I'm omniscient. So they'll lose their faith in me if I tell that. But he said, you're a stupid monk. The one who knows that answer to that question is the Buddha. Go and ask the Buddha. And so he went to see him in front of the Buddha and said, this is my story, this is what happened. Where does this universe end without remainder? And the Buddha said, you can find the beginning and the end of the universe inside your own body and mind. And that was just an amazing little teaching. It just cut through all the Gomayang. Remember what Gomayang is? Go is the bull. Mayang is what comes out of this end of the bull. So you know what that is, Gomayang. So brilliant. So anyway, beginning and end of the universe, you find that inside this own body and mind. So the Abhasara they call it Brahmas. There they dwell, mind-made, feeding on delight, self-luminous, moving through the air, own space, glorious, and they stay like that for a very long time. It's a very stable realm. Feeding on joy. This is what keeps them going. Everything needs a fuel. Not physical fuel, food, but just joy, bliss, And if ever you've been in a jhana, you know the bliss is brilliant. And it just keeps on going. It feeds itself. So anyway, now, questions on this, if I haven't bamboozled you totally. Yes, Annie?
So, just 1 moment.
Okay, yes. You have to be very fit to be on the AV team.
In this cosmology, all beings on the earth, like whether they be worms,
Yeah.
cockroaches, crows, whatever,
Yeah.
up to humans, if at the end, like say there's a cataclysmic end to the universe,
Yeah.
rather than a gradual, well, even if it's a gradual end. So all of them become these
A bus of radiant devas.
Yes, yes. So what's the point of practicing? If you
What's the point? By one you get reborn as a worm next time. And then you can make sure in Dhammaloka, so all your hard work as a gardener, you can make sure that you aerate all the right plants,
Yeah,
and you
well,
chew the weeds. Yeah, the non-natives. No.
I read recently that in the last 200 years, 60% of all, wildlife animals on the earth have actually disappeared.
Yeah, where they've been reborn. Where's the wild people gone?
Yes, exactly.
Bikies, terrorists. So that's a common question. But if you asked, about not just the...
What will happen, but I asked what will happen if there is a much more cataclysmic end to the universe and things sort of don't...
Yeah.
Because I think that reading this sort of things are going down sort of slowly over time, and there's eons and eons
Exactly.
of time. But if there's
You can imagine a cataclysm...
let's say all the climate change predictions come true, and we have a 20-metre rise in sea level, all the catastrophic bushfires, etc., etc., etc. And in 200 years, humans are just about extinct.
Yeah, but what's the big thing with humans?
Well, you did mention anyway.
Sometimes...
So, what if most life becomes extinct?
Yeah, if all life becomes... That's...
Do they all become devas, or do they become hungry ghosts, or
No,
happens?
Even the hungry ghost realm is obliterated. So anyway, for this, sometimes the idea of this human realm and on planet Earth, so many years ago, actually many cultures, they believed they were the center of the universe. That's why they had anyone who's lived around the Mediterranean. That means the middle of the earth. Tolkien's Middle Earth. China, Middle Earth. We always think we're the center. As the Buddhists, no, we are all over the place. Disorganized. So that whole idea of being central to everything, that's something which always didn't make any sense. Why? And of course, even planet Earth, you can say that.
Well, it doesn't make sense to anybody who studied ecology either.
Yeah, of course we're not the center. But what happened? Yeah. Yeah.
We are all part of nature.
Yeah, including just rise and fall, destructions, re-arising. But a cataclysm on planet Earth, there has been before, that, can be visualized and expected. And of course, there are beings survive, not necessarily humans, maybe other sort of forms of being. It's now their turn. I remember as a kid seeing Planet of the Apes. As a kid, apparently there's a new version now. But anyhow, the idea that we wipe ourselves out and the apes take over, or whatever. But anyway, it's not just people who think the animals are just so inferior than human beings. Just like the caste, the Brahmins are the highest. This is who does a good work. So anyway, there we have the different beings, and we can move between different species. Number one, so if human beings get wiped out, or if animals get wiped out, then there's still plenty of rooms in different types of inns, different types of hotels. But if the case came, this whole planet would get wiped out. There's also another sutra in the Anguttara, which when I read it was, oh, this is really interesting, that there are other world systems, basically aliens. This is not the only planet you can get born into.
Teach that the human form is the best
Nah.
way to get enlightened.
It's a good one to get enlightened.
But see, the perspective that the Buddha is coming from is from is a human perspective. I mean, I can see. I mean, it seems to doesn't assume, evolution, and it's like set in a certain period of history.
Set in a period of history, but
we can see the possibility of our own extinction.
yeah.
But I mean, in the Buddhist cosmology, the Buddhas, they also talk about, the Buddhas arising and, passing away, and the Dhamma coming and then coming back again, and all this sort of thing.
And the Buddha in previous life.
But it's always humans are always at the centre of it.
Sometimes the Buddha is born as animals.
Pardon?
Sometimes even the Buddha remembering lives as
was he a
animals.
Buddha when he was an animal?
Yeah, no, not being fully enlightened as an animal, but being in the animal form.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So that's really important. And they said there's Buddhas in even other world systems. Yeah, there's an Anguttara sometimes, the different world systems. So basically it allows, the basically different galaxies, you would call them, sort of unable to communicate with one another, but still there. Who knows whatever life forms there are. So the idea of, Earth being the center, the only place, it doesn't make any sense to me. So there's other places, but that's if this planet Earth, when this planet Earth does, it slowly, eventually just get vaporized. It is basically slowly. So that, when that happens, it'll be a long time, but of course many beings may get reborn in other galaxies, other universe, other parts of the universe. But when the idea of a whole universe sort of having a cataclysm, there's no real mechanism that I know of, or I don't think science knows of, which can suddenly wipe out a universe in a few minutes or a few years. Even black holes take a long time to swallow things up. Interesting question. That's why I like this suit, because it gets a bit things we never get the chance to talk about. Yeah, okay, yeah, very good. One life at a time. One day at a time. Yeah, first of all, you had your hand up.
Mostly arise. Is the hell realm destroyed as well?
Hell realm destroyed, yeah.
Destroyed?
Yeah, so it'd be the third jhana realm, fourth jhana realm, anagamis, other realms.
And I heard a monk say it's evidence that we've all done a lot of good karma to be reborn in these higher realms.
Yeah, but you have lots of good karma, lots of bad karma. It depends which is activated at the end of your life. So there's no being in here, including myself, hasn't done a lot of bad karma in the past. But you've let that go. It's become old karma, unreachable now. The same with the amount of good karma you've done. It's huge. And that's why an Angulimala killed 99 people, some say 999. But that means that lots of bad karma can still become fully enlightened. Because activate the good karma. 2 separate bank accounts. And sometimes we keep drawing in from the bad bank account, not learning how to draw from the good bank account. Eddie. Oh, you got microphone's over there. Okay. Yak.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share something, because your talk, what you said about I'm Tibetan, and we talk about universe in a single atom, universe in a single atom.
Yeah.
And the world's, and I just wanted to share that, like yourself, we had one very great master I grew up with. And once I was very young, and I was used to be very worried about this world and what happens, and especially certain teachings that were getting extinct. And now we lost our country, Tibet, and what happens, and just getting worried. And Gen Rinpoche, he was least worried of anything. And what he said really touched me. And he said that you don't have to worry about what gets extinct, and because there are so many universes where these teachings will be alive. This is not the only world, as you said.
Yeah.
It will be alive, and if the people's karma, collective karma, is not ready to digest this kind of teachings, and it just will, just fade away. But don't worry, because it will be alive. Many world systems are there, and and so what you were saying was very, very powerful. I think this is so important in the West, because people are so worried about little things.
Yeah. It's true that His Holiness the Dalai Lama lost Tibet, but he gained a world.
Exactly. So in many ways, I think it's about expanding our mind. And I think what you are trying to say, explaining all these world systems and the jnanas, that everything is kind of mind-made in the end of the day.
Well, that's the most important part.
Yeah.
Okay, Eddie.
Yeah, Ajahn Brahm, it did mention in the suttas that in this world system, altogether there are 29 Buddhas, and that Sakyamuni Buddha, he's the 28th and second last Buddha. It says that the final Buddha, Maitreya Buddha, will come down when the world is in turmoil, and after that, the world will plunge into darkness.
Yeah, this is this planet Earth, and there was 3 Buddhas in this cycle.
Five.
3?
5.
3? 3.
I'm sorry.
Konagamana, Kassapa, and our Buddha. And then, so far. And Maitreya, when all trace of Buddhism is gone. So don't hold your breath for Maitreya to come and sort things out. So, again, this is just this cycle, this world cycle. So anyway, there's another question over there, yeah? And then we'll stop the questions. We have to go further, because I thought this would be over very quickly because a boring sutta, but it's really interesting when you get something.
So I just refer to really the modern physics. Well, it says that, all right, that there's experimental physics and theoretical physics. And theoretical physics already finding hints that, well, there might be other universes very close to us. That's where string theory talks about multiverse, multiverse as opposed to universe and all of that. My question is, and I hope it's not a cheeky question, but
go for it.
Is why there is well, it's sort of the $1 million question. Why there is something rather than nothing? I mean, why we are experiencing reality as it is in the physical world, and then if I need to ask the question in context, well, why there is the jhana system that we come into, and this is my question.
Well, I know there is a very strong logical argument. It's called the anthropomorphic principle. There is, because you're asking it now.
Right.
So that's an obvious piece of logic. If you weren't answering this, it would mean there wasn't anything. Because there is. That's why you can ask the question. But more than that is the physics only talks about the material universe, the universe of stuff. Every now and again you get things like quantum physics and Schrodinger's cat. It's neither exists nor doesn't exist. Does a tree make a sound in the forest when it falls if no one's there to listen to it? And the answer is it doesn't make a sound. It doesn't not make a sound. It's in between. It's quantum probability. Only if somebody observes it,
Yes.
notices
Then
it,
it does make a sound, yes.
is there a sound. So that was interesting stuff. At last, you need to create reality. You need a mind, an observer, someone who knows it. Without that, the world as we know it does not exist. It is mind-made, and that is quantum physics. But sometimes it's so difficult for people to accept that, because it makes everything a little bit more
Strange.
Strange, yeah. But that's part of the facts. Still, even to this day, you have the quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
It's there, it happens. People haven't got any clue why.
No one knows why.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff like that, which just shows the limit of our
Our
understanding.
ability, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go back to the Sutta class instead of physics. Here we go. Okay. Okay, we go. There they dwell, mind-made, feeding on delight. That keeps them going. But sooner or later, after a long period, this universe begins to unfold, develop again. At a time of evolving, the beings from plane of Abhasra Brahmas, having passed away from there, are mostly reborn in this world. This is the Dhammaloka. This is the world of this universe, or like a similar universe, the next one. Here they dwell, mind-made, feeding on delight, self-luminous, moving through their own space, glorious, and let it stay like that for a long period of time. This is the what we call the devas, the heavenly beings. Now that period was said there was just one mass of plasma, just from physics. What they say there is a liquid. But plasma is a gas of positive ions and free electrons with little or no overall electric charge. Better words, like a fluid. And all was darkness, absolute darkness. Neither moon nor sun appeared, no constellation or stars appeared. Night and day were not distinguished, nor months and fortnights, no years or seasons, no male and female. Beings being recognized just as beings. Same as the Deva realm. Devas are just devas, not male or female. Then sooner or later, after a very long period of time, savoury earth spread itself over the plasma fluid where those beings were. It looked just like the skin that forms itself over hot milk as it cools. It was endowed with colour, smell and taste. It was the colour of milk or butter and it was very sweet, like pure sweetened condensed milk. That's my translation, that's not what it really says. It means the pure sweetened ghee, I think it was. Or honey, I think. Sorry? I think it was honey. Then the idea of this saving plasma was always things coming together, the dust particles coming together, heating up, forming what is probably called magma these days, and then cooling on the outside. Savoury earth spread itself over the plasma, and those beings, where those beings were. It looked just like the skin that forms itself over milk. Then some beings of a greedy nature said, I say, what can this be? And tasted the savoury earth on its finger. In so doing, it became taken with the flavour, and craving arose in it. Even the flavour, just like the taste of it, the solidity of the cooling, what you call probably these days, the crust of the earth. And craving arose in it. Then other beings, taking their cue from that one, also tasted the stuff with their fingers. They too were taken with the flavour, and craving arose in them. So they set to that with their hands, breaking off pieces of the stuff in order to eat it. And the result of this was that their self-luminous disappeared. Instead of feeding on joy, they're feeding of solid food. And as a result of the disappearance of their self-luminance, the moon and the sun appeared. Night and day were distinguished. Months and fortnights appeared, and the years and its season. To that extent, the world re-evolved. Some of that is a little bit far-fetched, but you can see there's something you can gain out of that. That out of craving for material stuff, the bodies started to congeal as well. And those beings continued for a very long time feasting on this savoury earth. Not humans, beings, animals, fish, feeding on this savoury earth and being nourished by it. And as they did so, their bodies became coarser, and a different in looks developed among them. Some beings become good-looking, others ugly, and the good-looking ones were despised. Good-looking ones despised the others, saying, "We are better looking than they are." And because they became arrogant and conceited about their looks, the savoury earth disappeared. And this they came together and lamented, crying, "Oh, that flavour, oh, that flavour. It's aho rasang, aho rasang." And sometimes nowadays when people say, "Oh, flavour," when they get something nice to eat, they're repeating an ancient saying without realising it. And then, when the savoury earth had disappeared, a fungus cropped up in the manner of a mushroom. It was of a good colour, smell and taste. It was the colour of fine ghee or butter. It was very sweet, like pure wild honey. And those beings set and eat the fungus. And this lasted for a very long time. And as they continued to feed on the fungus, so the body became coarser still, and the difference in their looks increased still more. And the good-looking ones despised the others, and because they became arrogant and conceited about their looks, the sweet fungus disappeared. Next, creepers appeared, shooting up like bamboo, and they too were very sweet, like pure wild honey. And those beings set to and fed on those creepers, and as they did so, their bodies became even coarser, and the difference in their looks increased still more, became still more arrogant, and so the creepers disappeared too. At this they came together and lamented, crying, "Alas, our creeper's gone. What have we lost?" And so now today, when people are being asked why they're upset, said, "Oh, what have we lost?" They're repeating an ancient saying without realizing it. And then after the creepers had disappeared, rice appeared in open spaces, free from powder and from husks, fragrant and clean-grained. And what they had taken in the evening for supper had grown again and was ripe in the morning. And what they had taken in the morning for breakfast was ripe again by evening, with no sign of reaping. And these beings set to and fed on this rice, and this lasted for a very long time, just like a perfect sort of ecology and environment. So they were being looked after by nature. But what happened next, as usual, with beings, unfortunately? And as they did, and as these beings set to and fed on this rice, it lasted for a very long time, and as they did so, the bodies became coarser still, and the difference in their looks became even greater, and the females developed female sex organs, the male developed male organs, and the women became excessively preoccupied with men, and the men with women. Owing to this excessive preoccupation with each other, passion was aroused, and the bodies burnt with lust. And later, because of this burning, they indulged in sexual activity, but those who saw them indulging threw dust, ashes, or cow dung at them, crying, "Die, you filthy beast!" How can one being do such a thing to another? Just as today in some districts, this is in India, not in Perth today, where the daughter-in-law is led out, some people throw dirt at her, some ashes and some cow dung, without realizing they were repeating an ancient observance. What was once considered appropriate in those days is now considered appropriate. And those beings who in those days indulged in sex were not allowed into a village or town for 1 or 2 months. According to those who indulged in it for an excessively long time, in such immoral, they call it moral practices, began to build themselves dwellings, so to indulge undercover, and actually when they were out of the village. Now it occurred to one of those beings who was inclined to laziness, "Well, now why should I be bothered to gather rice in the evening for supper and in the morning for breakfast? Why shouldn't I gather it all at once for both meals?" And they did so. Another one came to them and said, "Come on, let's go rice gathering." "No need, my friend. I've gathered enough for both meals." And here we got materialism and consumption coming up. The other one, following this example, gathered enough rice for 2 days at a time, saying, "This should be about enough." Then another came and said to that second one, "Come on, let's go rice gathering." "No need, my friend. I've gathered enough for 2 days, and then 4 days, and 8 days. However, when those beings made a store of rice and lived on that, husk powder and husk began to envelop the grain, and where it was reaped, it did not grow again, and the cut place showed, and the rice grew in separate clusters. And those beings came together lamenting, "Oh, wicked ways have become rife amongst us. First we were mind-made, feeding on delight." All of it repeated down to the latest development, each fresh change being said to be due to wicked and unwholesome ways. And the rice grows in separate clusters. Now, so let us divide up the rice into fields with boundaries. So they did so. Then Wasetta, one greedy-natured being, while watching over his own plot, took another plot that was not given to him and enjoyed the fruits of it. So they seized hold of him and said, "You've done a wicked thing. Taking another's plot like that, don't ever do such a thing again." "I won't," he said. But he did the same thing a second time and a third time. Again he was seized and rebuked, and someone hit him with their fists, some with stones and some with sticks. In this way Wasetta, taking what was not given, and censuring and lying and punishment took their origin. Then those beings came together and lamented the arising of these evil things among them, taking what was not given, censuring, lying and punishment, all evil things. And they thought, suppose we were to appoint a certain being who would show anger where anger was due, censure those who deserved it, and banish those who deserved banishment, and in return we'd grant him a share of the rice. So they went to the one amongst them who was the most handsomest, the best looking, the most pleasant and capable, and asked him to do this for them in return to a share of the rice, and he agreed. Recently, at Bodhinyana Monastery, we decided to, as many officers, monks who get given responsibility, and the new workmaster suggested, he's only been in the job for, how many long, a week, 2 weeks? He suggested, can we have a whinging officer? So if anyone has any complaints about me, it goes to the whinging officer. That would be a really good idea. So we should have that. I know we're talking in our committee, in our strategy group, about having different sort of people in kind of a whinging member of the committee. So all whinging goes to that person. Is that a good idea, Dennis, Mr. President? Whinging officer. And okay. The people. Okay, so they chose this fellow. Started off as democracies. And the people's choice is the meaning of Mahasamatha, which is the first regular tata to be introduced. Lord of the fields is the meaning of Katiya. That's the first caste. Kata meaning a field. The second such title, and he gladdens others with Dhamma, actually with Dhamma here is righteousness, is the meaning of Raja. Rajati means to be excited and find pleasure in. The third title to be introduced. This then, Wasetta, is the origin of the class of Katiyas in accordance with the ancient titles that were introduced for them. They originated among these very same beings, like ourselves, no different in accordance with Dhamma nor otherwise. Dhamma is the best guide for people in this life and the next. Let's carry on. Then some of these beings thought evil things have appeared amongst beings, such as evil things have appeared among beings, such as taking what is not given, censuring, lying, punishment, and banishment. We ought to put aside evil and unwholesome things. And they did so. They put aside evil and unwholesome things. It's the meaning of Brahmin. They have like Pahati is also similar, but when you say Brahmacharya, and the Brahmacharya, remember you chant that if you do the 8 precepts. Brahmacharya Veramani, and a Brahmacharya is a meaning for the monastic life, the celibate life. So there is actually an idea that Brahmin, Brahmacharya, and to abandon things, they've got some grounds for saying that. Putting aside unwholesome things is the meaning of Brahmin, which is the first regular title to be introduced for such people. And those people, they made leaf huts in forest places and meditated in them, putting aside evil things, living sort of a celibate life, living simply. And so they built leaf huts in the forest place and meditated in them. With the smoking fire gone out, that's for the food, pestle cast aside, that's for making the curries or the sauces. Instead, gathering alms for their evening and morning meals, they gathered alms for both in those days, before the Buddha. They went away to a village, town, or royal city to seek their food, and they returned to the leaf huts to meditate. People who saw this and noted how they meditated is the meaning of Jayaka, which is the second regular title to be introduced. Now what happened next? However, some of those beings, not being able to meditate in leaf huts, your meditation not going that well, settled around towns and village and compiled books. Who does things like compiling books? But it's interesting, instead of meditating, sort of write about it. Instead of actually doing something, actually write a book about it and teach others. You know, it's an old saying in Australia. If you're not don't know what to do, then write a book about it. Anyway, I'm not going to go there too much, I'm going to be in big trouble. People saw them doing this and not meditating. Now these do not meditate, is the meaning of Ajayaka, which is the third regular title to be introduced. And even that Sajaya means actually to study. At that time it was regarded as a low designation, but now it is the higher. This then we're said to is the origin of the class of Brahmins in accordance with the ancient titles that were introduced for them. The origin was from amongst these same beings, like themselves, no difference, and in accordance with the Dhamma or otherwise. Dhamma is the best guide for people in this life and the next. And then was said to some of those beings, having paired off, adopted various trades, and this various is the meaning of Wesa. Is the word Mimissa, which is, sometimes these words get contracted, just like I mentioned to the monks. You know the meaning of omnibus? That was a Latin word, meaning for everybody. And of course it's too long to say I'm going to catch the omnibus to work today, so now it becomes the bus. And instead of actually thinking it's for everybody, it's only people who can pay. We've got our multi-riders, or got, like me, their seniors card with a smart rider on it. I never used it yet, but anyway. So anyway, that was the meaning of Westers. In accordance with the ancient titles introduced for them, the origin was amongst these very same people. And then was said that those beings that remained went in for hunting, they are base who live by the chase. That was actually Maurice Walsh's little saying. And that is the meaning of Suda, which is the same, came to be the regular title for such people. This then is the origin of the class of Sudas, in accordance with the ancient titles that were introduced for them. The origin was from among these very same beings. And then was that it came about that some Khattiya, dissatisfied with his own lifestyle, went forth from the household life into homelessness, thinking, I will become a renunciant. And a Brahmin did likewise, a Vaisa did likewise, so did a Suda, those are the four classes then. And from these four classes, the classes of renunciants came into existence. Not a caste, but class. The origin was from among these same beings, like themselves, no different in accordance with the Dhamma or otherwise. Dhamma is the best guide for people in this life as well as the next. So giving some idea, and it's very hard to substantiate that with archaeological evidence, or much other evidence. Linguistic evidence is sometimes, but at least he was just saying this, ordinary people, this is where the caste system, which was very strong in the time of the Buddha, originated from. But the Buddha was trying to explain to a couple of Brahmins just how that was not to be followed. And was said to a Khattiya who has led a bad life in body, speech and mind, who has wrong view, will in consequence of such wrong view and deeds at the breaking up of the body after death be reborn in a state of loss and ill fate, the downfall of the hell state, so too a Brahmin, a Vasa and a Suda, all four classes suffer the same fate. Likewise, a Khattiya who has led a good life in good body, speech and mind, who has right view, will in consequence of such right view and deeds at the breaking up of the body after death be reborn in a good destiny, in a heaven state. So too a Brahmin, a Vaisa, or a Suda, according to your deeds, so be reborn. And this is one of the interesting things, because sometimes is this what good karma or bad karma? Because they say, and a Khattiya who is performed deeds of both kinds in body, speech and mind, whose view is mixed, will in consequence of such mixed views and deeds the breakup of the body after death, experience both pleasure and pain. So too will the Brahman of or a Sutta. Sometimes we always say, is a karma good karma or bad karma? A lot of time it's mixed. It's black and white, it's in the middle. You can't say it's good, it's bad, it's in the middle. And we're said to whoever of these four castes as a monk or nun becomes an arahat who has destroyed the outflowings, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, attained the highest goal, completely extinguished the fetter of being, and become liberated by direct experience, they are declared to be chief among them in accordance with the Dhamma, not otherwise. Dhamma is the best guide for people in this world and the next. And because this, the Buddha was a Khattiya, probably to make sure that, that he didn't upset his supporters or whatever, his clan. Was said it was Brahma Sanankumara who spoke this verse. The Khattiya is best among those who value clan. One with wisdom and good conduct is best among gods and humanity. So if you're talking about clans and castes, he said Khattiya is the best because he was one of them, before anyway. But one with wisdom and good conduct is the best amongst all gods and humanity, not just men, humanity. This verse was rightly sung, not wrongly, rightly spoken, not wrongly, connected with profit, not connected. I too say that, Wasetta. The Khattiya is best among those who value clan. One with wisdom and good conduct is the best among gods and humanity. Thus the Buddha spoke. He said, I too say this. And Wasetta and Bhardwaja were delighted and rejoiced in his words. That's the Aggañña Sutta. When I said I was going to teach that, people said, oh my goodness, what are you getting into, Ajahn Brahm? But anyway, we give it a try. I hope it was useful for you. Okay, you can do sadhu. Do it big time. 1, 2, 3. Sadhu. 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 Very good. So I hope that was okay for you. A little bit of interest here and there. Okay. Any questions? Oh, I wasn't fast enough. I was going to say, no, good, let's go. Okay, come on, John.
Thank you. But just a question on the second realm, where all the beings go at the end of the universe.
Oh, yeah.
That's totally different from beings who practice the Dhamma, develop the meditation, and enter that way. They'll stay there, won't they? They'll continue on to enlightenment. Is that correct?
Quite depends on. It's a big question. You can't just say that they will continue on to enlightenment just as a blank check, as it were. It is, some people will go into one of those jhana realms, say the Basra realm. Sometimes, that some people, who even haven't meditated much before, can press the letting go button and get into a jhana. And I've, seen people come and just, that was a jhana. How the heck do you do that? Because hardly any preparation, even not really good sila, not good, but they can do that. Just sometimes in difficult situation, back against the wall, that's all they can do. And they let go, get into a jhana. But it doesn't mean they're going to go to enlightenment afterwards, but it gives them a big boost. So those beings, all sorts of beings, will sort of get into those jhana realms when there's no place else to go. So, in other words, that they die, there's no body to go into. There's no realm even to be a ghost, no hell realms. So there's only place left is to be in this blissful place. But then, they're using up that opportunity. When they get reborn, then old karma comes up. So it's like a little bit of a holiday, a lucky break for a while. But some of those beings who arise after when this world, this universe system rather, starts to evolve again, who knows what karma will come to fruition for them. Yeah?
But those who know the Dhamma and have it within it, they would continue on there.
Oh yeah, that's right, yeah. That's the jhana anagamis. It's an interesting, but a bit too long to actually to explain that here today. But it's true that if you're a stream winner, or even on the path of being a stream winner, and you get to a jhana, done lots of jhana, then when you see that light at the end of your life, you see the light, you know exactly what to do with it, and you can just merge into that, and you never come back from the jhana realms. When that karma there fades, so do you never get reborn. I got it from overseas. Oh my goodness. Okay, from overseas, or is it from? Let's see where it's from. Okay, we got one from Andromeda Nebula, another one from Ganymede planet, moon of Saturn. That's where Doctor Who lives, apparently. Parry Adelaide. If jhana is the cause for enlightenment, how can things be born in jhana world and not get enlightened? Do beings get enlightened in jhana world? Jhana is a necessary cause for enlightenment, but not a sufficient cause. In other words, necessary and sufficient causes. You know what you learned in logic. Necessary means you have to have that. You can't get enlightened without that. So you need to have a partner to get married. You can't get married to your teddy bear or to yourself. So a partner is a necessary condition to get enlightened, to get married. Jhana is a necessary condition for enlightenment. But just because you've got a partner, you don't have to get married. You need something else. So jhana is a cause for enlightenment, but you need something else for enlightenment to happen. So that's with verse 372 Dhammapada, Nati jhananga panyasa panyanatiya jayato. Said that so many times. There's no jhana without wisdom, there's no wisdom without jhana, but when there's jhana and wisdom, you're in the presence of nibbana. You need both the jhana and the wisdom. And from England, to be reborn doesn't make a difference as one is cremated rather than buried. No, it doesn't make a difference at all. As for me, I've said this many times, and please make sure that you respect my final wishes, that I want to be mulched. Mulched! Yes, good idea, yeah. So number one, you don't take up precious land, which can be used for so many other purposes. Number two, you're not, creating a huge amount of emissions into our atmosphere because, it takes a lot of energy to burn somebody, and the bigger they are, the more energy it takes. And lastly, mulch, you go back into the soil straight away. So anyway, that's what I want to do. So if you don't mulch me, then we've got to be reborn as a ghost to actually come and haunt you, isn't it? Oh dear. Anyway, it doesn't really make a difference. But what is a necessary cause for reborn is to die first. Okay, so don't mulch me if I'm just in a deep meditation, okay? Wait till I'm really dead. Okay, thank you all for coming. And we'll finish off now, as our car has already come to take us away to the mulcher. Okay, thank you. Oh, Ajahn Brahm. Boy, you just upset a lot of people. Is that